I have missed using my trusty Osho Zen tarot in these reading videos. So, get ready for a love tarot reading using the Osho Zen in this one. Hi, it's Leia. Welcome to this episode of Diaries of a Witchy Creative Life. In the intro to this video, I said that we are doing a love tarot reading. It's going to be a past, present, future spread, and you might be thinking, if the style of these videos that I do is not predictive, how are we going to do a past, present, future reading? I'll show you how. And if you are new here, hi, welcome. The style isn't going to be predictive, as I said. Instead, we're going to be diving deep down into ourselves. The cards that we are going to be pulling will be reflecting questions and points to ponder back at us about these times in our lives. So let's shuffle the deck. I like switching it up. Sometimes the deck is pre-shuffled and the cards have been picked ahead of time before I start filming, and other times I do it right then and there. So this is one of those times. Okay, so I'm fanning the deck out and we'll be picking from random spots. Here's the card that's gonna stand for the past. Here's our present card. And this one right here will be our future card. Let's jump in. The card for the past is... Oh, so I have them upside down. I don't read reversals, so I'll just turn them over. Healing. So you can get a closer look before I put it back. And I might as well flip these over. Okay. So, for the past, what situations or events come to mind for you now that might have affected your ability to love, to find love? This reading, by the way, applies to love in general. By all means, you can think of love in the romantic sense as you ponder these points, but this can apply to relationships and loving in general. And journal keepers, as I always like to say, please find inspiration here for your journaling prompts, if it so pleases you. Okay, so back to the card. The reason why I asked you those questions isn't to bring the trauma back up or anything like that. More along the lines of, well, okay, maybe, sure, a little bit, but there's a purpose to it. And that is, it could help you realize the work that you've already done on yourself to take you from where you used to be to where you are now. And you could give yourself a pat on the back for that. It could help give you context as to what's happened in your journey. Because sometimes we're not aware of this sort of stuff unless someone asks us about it, or we read some sort of inner growth or personal development book that asks these same questions, or maybe go to therapy. And so we're not even aware that yes, there might have been difficult moments. You might have had a difficult childhood. You might have been in abusive relationships. But acknowledge the work that you've already done. Acknowledge how you've moved forward in your healing journey. And it's different for everybody. So don't be so harsh on yourself because you feel like you should have come further already by now. And sometimes, even those who are relatively well aware of the progress that they've made they could still use reminding, especially if building new, healthier relationships than what you were previously in is one of your goals. Then it helps to see that you have come quite a ways. So think about all that and celebrate your progress. Bask in that healing energy, that knowing that you've done all this work. It's no small feat. So congratulations. And again, when it comes to comparing, go easy on yourself. If thoughts cross your mind like, oh, what I went through wasn't as difficult as what my friend went through, like maybe more what you'd consider to be severe abuse, and you feel like, oh, I should consider myself lucky because my case isn't as difficult as his or hers was. Again, everyone is different, and just because someone went through what you perceive to be something more difficult doesn't mean that you weren't affected by what you went through. And this might encourage you as well to recognize the areas where there's still work to be done so that you can seek whatever treatment or help, be it through a counselor or therapist if you're not seeing one yet, in order to keep making strides in this healing journey. Now let's move on to card number 2, which is the present. This is number 13 from the Major Arcana, which is, in this deck, transformation. While the Osho Zen Tarot is a little different from the typical Rider-Waite-Smith deck, number 13, transformation, is pretty much the death card in this deck, just like number 13 in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck is death. And so what I invite you to look at right now is, how are you transforming? What are you currently doing when it comes to your love journey? Whether you want to find a mate or you want to get better at relationships in general, like with your friends or your family, you can go ahead and take note of the things that you're already doing so that you can more intentionally jump into them. And like with the first card, the healing card, congratulate yourself as well for a job well done on any of these areas where you've started or have seen progress. And it doesn't matter if you're at the beginning or you've already put in years of work. And the question now would be, speaking of being intentional, what would you like to do? Because sometimes, without even really thinking about it, we start making improvements or changes. But now, consciously thinking about it, what would you like to do? For example, if you've started dating, but have kept it casual for a while because you felt like, oh, I'm not ready. Could it be that at this point, you could actually move to the next level, which is, just to give an example, to start narrowing down options. See, you don't even have to just see one person if you don't want to do that. You can keep talking to a few people at a time, but who has the potential to actually be a mate? For some, it would be hanging out with buddies and not even taking it to the romantic level, but staying open to seeing where things might go. The death/transformation card is about change. So you actually have the option to take what you'd like to change in your hands instead of allowing it to happen on its own. And sure, that isn't true for all cases. Sometimes it's better to allow relationships or certain things to evolve on their own, but what is ripe for the picking right now? Like, what can you actually have in your hands, like clay, and mold it to be the next version of it that you want? How can you empower yourself in this phase of your love journey? Okay, now let us move on to card number 3, which is the card that stands for the future. So this is harmony. So if you've noticed, as I promised earlier, these are questions and things to contemplate when it comes to certain times in your life, namely past, present, and future. Unlike in a predictive reading or a more fortune-telling style reading, where you might be told, for instance, in the present, this is what's happening for you right now, and in the past, this is what happened. And then the future one, of course, would be, this is likely to happen. What we are doing here is diving within and doing some exploration there. So, for the future card, what I would like you to explore is, how do you envision yourself being in harmony, being more at peace with yourself and the events that have taken place in your life, going back to the past card? What do you see yourself doing? What steps can you take to get to that point where you feel more at ease, more in the flow, more connected to who you are, to your sense of self? And for some of you out there who look towards a higher power, you could include that as well, feeling more in tune with that higher power. Since we all have different beliefs and ways of practicing our spirituality, it's a very personal thing. So what does that look like for you? And how this differs from the present card is, you know how sometimes there are steps necessary before you can get somewhere. You don't just go from point A to point Z. There is a journey in between, and the present is where you currently are. That's what the questions that we asked earlier referred to. What can you do with where you currently are, with where you're standing at the moment, with how things stand in your life right now? Whereas, in the case of the future, this is more about your goals and dreams for yourself when it comes to love, and self-love, most importantly, really, more than anything. Self-love is the foundation of our relationships with others. How we feel about ourselves, that shows up as well in how we treat other people. You may put on a face sometimes, like when you first meet someone that you really like, but you can't hide that forever, and that's what shadow work is for, so that we can get real with ourselves and do the work that it takes. And that's what the guidance from this card regarding our topic is telling us. How do you envision the love and relationships aspect of your life in the future? You could even have a list that's for the near future and a list that's for the more distant future. And it's okay if along the way any of that changes. The point is, you have an idea, and that's what you base what you do in the present on, so that you can head in this direction, and then you correct as you go along if you decide that you want something different instead. Thank you so much for joining me for this reading. I really enjoyed using the Osho Zen Tarot in one of these videos again. I've been thinking of putting some of my old videos back on public, because even if there's some old information in there, or I've made some changes in how I do things, there's still quite a bit that's relevant or helpful. So why not, right? And some of those videos have the Osho Zen Tarot in them. So if you enjoy this, stay tuned. Some of those videos featuring this deck may be back pretty soon. There'll be another video here before you know it, so please hit subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Bye for now. Take care. These diaries of a witch creative life are made with love. More coming soon.